What is up, everybody? Welcome in and happy holidays, first of all, and welcome into episode 53 of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Roscoe, and an exciting show to bring you guys today is even though the Christmas season is upon us and Hanukkah and all the other holidays, racing does not stop. It never sleeps. Not to mention, we have the Fairgrounds card. We're coming today with 8 total stakes races on the card. We are going to cover the all stakes late PICK6 for you guys here today. And tomorrow, scrolling on the bottom of the screen, you can see tomorrow the Flagship show guys are covering the I think it might be all stakes, if not 4 stakes at Gulfstream on Saturday, including the Tropical Park Derby and Oaks. Fantastic weekend of racing. And we have a special episode next Tuesday for the day after Christmas, Santa Anita with the Grade 1 Malibu card, one of the best cards all year long. One of the cards that a bunch of us, especially West Coast bias, looks forward to every single year. But that's a fantastic card. You guys do not want to miss out on what's coming up on the HHH Racing Podcast. But real quick, guys, of course, we're going to go through the peripherals here. A lot of people are already watching, so we really, really appreciate you guys doing that. Again, you can contact me through email, bettinandboozin@gmail.com, or comment in the live chat, or DM me on Twitter at APRoscoeK. I look at everything over there, and I will definitely get back to you. If you're more of an audio listener while you listen at the gym or anything, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor is where you find all of our podcasts, not only of Bettin and Boozin, but everything on the HHH Racing Podcast gets uploaded in audio form to those 3 platforms. Please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. The Power Picks guys, again, super profitable throughout the entire year. We're over at, I believe, $2.20 now. I believe we went up from last week. It says $2.19 there, but it is $2.20. And it doesn't stop. We got 2 more weeks, I believe, of Power Picks, if I'm not mistaken. There also is still time to sign up for the 2024 yearly Power Picks. You get a full month free if you sign up on the yearly subscription. So please go do that. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. We've been profitable for almost 2 years now, and we don't have any signs of stopping. So please, again, patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. And if you want to know anything about us or want to look at previous editions of the Power Picks before you buy, HHHRacingPodcast.com is, of course, where you will find those. But guys, unfortunately, due to Christmas obligations, West Coast bias, aka Noah Maher, will not be with us tonight. But we do have the OG squad back together again, and for hopefully one final time, if probably not the final time, just all of us. But still, OG squad is here from East Coast. Patrick Kuenzel. From now the East Coast, Charlie Freeman. Boys, what's going on?
Nothing much. How we doing?
It's good to have the old crew back together. I can't think of the last time it's been just us 3.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's, it's probably not the final time, but something along those lines. I switched up my outfit on you guys. I just realized we talked before the show. I was wearing something completely different to what I'm wearing now. But this is my new favorite sweater of for the Christmas season.
There you go. That's great.
I got it fantastic off of Amazon that I'm going to wear to every single Christmas party this year. If you're a fan of Christmas Vacation, you'll, of course, know what that means. But I see a bunch of people in the chat, guys. I'm going to go through Speed of the Horse. Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. He's putting in a race that we're not covering, but this Saturday, race 3, number 6, Join the Dance. This was Speed of the Horse is looking forward to. Good luck with that opinion. I appreciate you joining the show. Speed of the Horse. Colin Quinn, I don't think I've ever seen your name before, my friend. Thanks so much for joining the show. It could definitely be a Phil Bauer special. He ships really well to Fairgrounds, and the fact that he has a lot of good runners, maybe some I'm interested in. So you'll have to stay to the show. But thanks so much, Colin, for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Steven Vanderbrook is here. As always, smash that like button. Please smash that like button. It's the best way to support our channel, both liking and subscribing. Thanks so much, Steven, for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Racing Down Wins says, nice hat, Kyle. I got to get festive for the holidays. Not only the stream border can be festive for the holidays, I got to do it as well. Thanks so much for joining the show, David. Greatly appreciate it. Michael Lawson is here, of course. Thanks so much, man, for joining the show. He did give out both 30-1 shots included in the pick 5, but unfortunately can never get over that hurdle. The Butterbean also knocked me out. I'm sure you saw on my Twitter as well. I gave out the pick 5 that Butterbean knocked me out as well. But again, Michael, thanks so much for doing the show, man. Greatly appreciate it. Daniel J is here. Thanks so much, man, for joining the show. Really appreciate it. Hello, B&B people. Hope all are having a good evening. Absolutely. And happy holidays again to everybody out there, as this will be our final show before Christmas. So Merry Christmas if you do celebrate. Happy holidays to those that don't. But guys, like I said, we're not going to waste too much time here. We got 6 really nice races to cover, all stakes races, all listed stakes for 100,000. But there are some early Kentucky Derby points on the line here in the Gun Runner, which is race number 12 that we are covering. But this sequence starts in race number 7, guys. So we're going to flip right there, and I'm trying to flip over the screen right now. So give me 2 seconds. For some reason, Equibase is not cooperating with me. All right, there we go. So let me switch over right now. Race number 7 is the Helena Memorial Stakes as I present the screen. Sorry, guys, got a lot of buttons going on. Here we go. Race number 7 is Helena Memorial Stakes for going 6 furlongs for 2-year-old fillies. The dirt sprint draws a field of 8. The morning light favorite is the number 3, Helena Forte, out of a really nice race from Martin Garcia. And the Philip Bauer show, of course, as Colin Quinn. Oh, yeah, Colin, I do remember. Yeah, that's right. My fault. I appreciate it, man. I greatly appreciate you joining in a show and pointing in the chat. But I do remember meeting you. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Colin, again for joining. Greatly appreciate it. But yeah, Helena Forte is your morning line favorite, getting Lasix for the first time for Philip Bauer. Second choice will be De Bois Blanc for Florent Giroux, Brad Cox, also getting Lasix for the first time. And your third choice is the Greg Foley trained Twirl Around. Guys, going to switch over the picks right now. And I believe 2 of us are going with the morning line favorite between me and Patrick, number 3. But Charlie going a little bit off the radar here with the number 5, as I mentioned, the third choice, Twirl Around for Edgar Morales and Greg Foley. Charlie, you have first crack. What'd you like most about Twirl Around?
You know, I was on Helena's Forte the whole time. I was going through this, about to send you my picks, watching, the replays. And I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, that once you kind of get into watching replays, the one kind of downfall can be, you get hooked on a certain replay you see that just sticks in your head. And that's what happened to me. The 3 made the most sense on paper, was going to stick with it. And then once I just rewatched Twirl Around again on that maiden win at Churchill Downs, I just couldn't talk myself off the horse. Had Johnny V aboard. Obviously doesn't have Johnny V this time, but still the way this horse just kicked away, starting at the 12 gate in that race is certainly not easy to have to come all the way over from the outside, but just shot out of a cannon, immediately got over, dictated the pace, and still did not go slow by any means. 22-5, 46-1 was not going slow by any means, but was able to just completely dictate that race and then just flew away on hand. And I know there's a lot of speed in this race. I know there's a lot of other horses that are going to have a similar style, but I was looking for a race where I didn't have to pick the favorite. And again, as much as I do also like the 3 and think this could be a 2-horse race, which I'll touch on later, I just Twirl Around. I couldn't get over this horse. I was really impressed.
You just twirl around? Is that what you saw this horse?
Yeah, I guess that's what you could say I did.
Jesus. Patrick, you have this horse in third. I don't have this horse anywhere, and I'll give my reasons in a sec. Just, Greg Foley coming shipping from Churchill, but there is one conniving factor, and it is what that race was supposed to be last time out. I'm sure you guys saw.
Yeah, we were gonna talk about that because obviously Churchill, had the turf problems, but it shows that Foley wanted to put this horse on the turf. So I just think that it's just a little interesting how this horse does get on the dirt now and then does show up and pops an 82 buyer and she's 30 more points. I just don't know how good of a field that was. And, I look at the alternate to the 3 for Phil Bauer. And, this horse was impressive on debut at Churchill in the beginning of November, comes back 3 weeks later, loses to Almost Had Me, who, from what I recall, she's won her last 2 starts and both were in stakes company, I believe.
That's correct. Won by 7 lengths.
Very impressive horse. So I just think Helena's Forte for Phil Bauer is going to be ultra tough in this spot, especially because last out showed, it was a weird race where, she split horses in the stretch. It looked like she was going to be the winner, but then you Almost Had Me just was really impressive. So the 3's going to be tough.
There's a few reasons why I landed on Helena's Forte in this race, and There's a lot of horses. I'll just go through the field real quick. It's not that big. It's only 8 horses. The one mixer, slow on the numbers, but has a closing style which could be favorable in this race, which is why I have mixer in second. Can't resist it. Dead go.
Yeah.
Helena's Forte, not a dead go. Showed the ability to rate last time. Be down to fool around. Great name. All go. From a 5 furlong horse for the 6.5, you expect to be quick out of the gate. Twirl Around, straight go out of that last race. The first race, Denver really got into stride. Last race, straight to the front. Brunch Punch, straight to the front. First race out was a little bit slow, but still was in that top flight. Second race out, found her early footing. Brunch Punch should be a dead go. And Du Bois Blanc, the other Cox, probably has a little bit more ability to rate than Brunch Punch does. But, I mean, just again, involved in fast paces, this horse is no slouch out of the gate either. And Leslie's Foot for James Chapman is a straight go as well. So you see all these horses that have this over 100 early time form. And even though Helena's Forte is 96.59, that last race out was very indicative of me that this horse can sit. And judging by Philip Bauer seeing this field, I'm going to guess he's going to try and tell Martin Garcia to sit maybe in that second flight and be able to come up late. Lost to a really good horse, and You Almost Had Me. And Helena's Forte, I mean, not really a much tougher trip, was a little bit in front of You Almost Had Me coming around the first turn. Unfortunately, it's Churchill, so we can't show the replays. But was just in front, came through, split horses, and You Almost Had Me rode the rail the entire way just to get up and win it. I think a less of a half furlong for Helena's Forte, and continuing to improve on that 85 buyer, maybe runs a high 80s in this race. I think that's easily good enough to win against the field, if not compete with other horses. But I think Helena's Forte is going to be my top pick and maybe one of my strongest picks of the entire day. But real quick, guys, Charlie, I'm going to let you touch on anything. You have about 3, and then 6. Brunch Punch, who I also have in third. Then we'll close out, and then Patrick, you'll final say. But anything you want to touch on with Brunch Punch?
Yeah, I mean, with Helena's Forte, I think you covered everything. The obvious choice, 2 great figures in a row, certainly has worked well and could improve again. Again, honestly, it's just with the 2-1. Again, when we get to our bets later, you'll see that I still trust this 3 horse to do something. But again, I just couldn't shake that replay. With Brunch Punch, I just threw the horse in third. I mean, look, James Graham's obviously a terrific jockey, and it's Brad Cox. Certainly, though, since Cox is more known, so I guess Florent Giroux typically take his top horse. If you want to play jockey gymnastics, you can be worried. But I like the continuity. Obviously, this horse was terrible on debut, despite being heavily bet down. But then with James Graham, he was able to find something. Do I think Brunch Punch realistically wins? No, but I think you could get certainly decent value. And I mean, with all these horses going and seemingly none of the ones that want to go showing any ability to actually hold on, that's what I liked about the 5 and the 6 was they both shot to the front but were able to widen their lead. So who knows? Maybe the 6 Brunch Punch can surprise. I think like you touched on, it's going to be a very hotly contested pace. My only knock on the 3 really was, as you touched on, even though the horse was a little off the pace, the 3 had every right to then go by and win and got a clean trip and then didn't anyway. So I don't really know. This almost could be a race where I don't know if I trust anyone to pass, but not because of certain races we've covered in the past where they're all terrible horses, but because every single one of these horses wants the lead. And so I feel like this is one of those races where it's chaos. And I like that you touched on the one that was going to be my long shot I want to touch on. I think Jareth Loveberry, Arlington legend, Derby legend with 2 fills, is a great jockey. And as you touched on, not that fast, but you can see once the horse got a pace meltdown rather than a cold pace, was a completely different horse, then you're going to get a hot pace. Like I know we talk about how sometimes it should be a hot pace. I just don't see a scenario where this race isn't a hot pace. And people can hold me accountable for saying that. But I feel like it absolutely will happen. But yeah,
and
so
not
I
to
feel
mention,
like
there's a
3 and 5
few
are my main
things.
2 contenders.
Sorry, not sorry to cut you off, but
No,
there's
good.
a few things. The inside has also been very, very good at fairgrounds on the dirt. Like over half the winners this meet have come on the inside. And they've been a little bit, it's kind of been mixed. Dirt sprints, it's been pretty even throughout the entirety of the race. Again, shout out Ryan Pipp, one of the best follows on Twitter. If you don't follow him, he covers all these track profiles. So I use him a lot, but it's been very even throughout. Although Fairgrounds has been kinder to closers in recent past. But I just think Helena's Forte really sits the nice trip. Patrick, last touch on Du Bois Blanc. You have in second. Anything you want to touch on her before we move on?
Yeah, I just think, looking at her form, she seems to run her race every other race. And I just find that, we're getting her in that other race where she's run well. So I threw her in there because I think, she has shown in some races she can rate, the one she won second out, she came off from at a second place. So I don't know. I think she might be interesting as well, at a decent price for a Cox horse.
Yeah, the reason I didn't have her is because there's a continuing factor in the races that she runs well and doesn't run well. It's
Yeah.
hot pace, easy pace, hot pace, easy pace, hot pace.
I saw the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's going to be an easy pace by any means, but again, I think the one horse that might have a chance to sit a little bit more would be the 7 over the 6, but I'm just not sure the 7 is good enough, and we'll obviously bet down with Cox and Drew. I'm going 3-1-6. Patrick's going 3-7-5. Charlie's going 5-3-6. Guys, switching over to race number 8 here, which is the start of the late pick 5. It's the Richardshur Memorial Stakes for $100,000, going 5.5 on the turf. This draws a full field of 11 here. And as I switch over to the race, the morning line favorite is the number 6, Private Creed, for Rosario and Asmussen. Second choice and third choice is shared between the number 9, Sua Summer, and the number 10, Evan Singh. But let's see, as we get to here, Charlie and I are both not getting too cute here. We know how much at least me myself, I don't like dirt sprints, but Patrick actually included a different horse to us two, going with the number 4, the Millionaire Runner Just Might. But guys, switching over, Patrick, I'll let you go first this time here. We all have the number 6 on top, Private Creed. I'll let you talk about him first. What'd you like most?
Yeah, he's just very consistent. I mean, this is, you typically see a Steve Asmussen trained horse on the dirt, doing these sprints, but on a turf, I mean, this horse, very, very consistent, like I said. And, these last 2 races out and these middle 90 buyers were really impressive against some pretty tough horses. And the horses come from is just a tactical horse. And I just think in this spot, a little, I don't want to call it a weaker field, but it's just not to the competition of what this horse has faced in the past. And, hasn't run on fairgrounds turf. So, that could be a question. But this is a spot where I don't think we're going to get 3-1.
Yeah. And that was kind of my thing. I think Private Creed is going to be easily in the best spot of this entire field. Again, another thing where you kind of want to be not really towards the inside, but you want to be a little bit off the pace, but not too far off the pace. Closers haven't done too well. This problem with these turf sprints based on track bias or track profile, I should say, rather, is there hasn't been too many turf sprints. It's only been 6. So, and it's been 4 win by the wire, 2 by the closer, but the call length you want to be is pretty close. You want to make that move a little bit early. I just think Private Creed sits right off what's going to be a pretty hot pace and gets first run on a lot of the horses that are coming from farther back. Not to mention that 98 and 95 pretty close pairing at the top is nothing to hate on either. So I'm just hoping that Private Creed can set a nice inside trip around the bend, but hopefully, Charlie, I'll go to you next here. So you have Private Creed in first. Anything more you want to touch on with him? And then number 10, Evan Singh, who I'm also interested in, who are all interested in. You both have in second. I have in third. Anything you want to touch on Private Creed before we move on?
No, I think Patrick nailed it. I mean, the reality is, certainly compared to some of the other horses in this field, is one of the younger horses, which I always like, just has been the definition of consistency. Obviously there was that one grade 2 race that doesn't start with the 46, but other than that, has really just been going in the low 80s, and then recently just took another huge step up with that 98 and 95. So to me, it seems like Private Creed is a horse with a bunch of experience against tough fields, ran in a grade 1, ran in a few grade 2s, as Patrick talked about. I don't think this field's necessarily super weak. I just think, as Patrick said, this horse has run against tougher horses, beat Playlist, Sweet Cherry Pie, 2 back. Those are 2 very solid horses to defeat. I just think Private Creed got a great gate. Always consider a good trip, whether it's just behind the leaders or a little farther back, depending on how hot the pace is. And I really just, as you touched on, I don't think you're getting 3-1 on this horse. I think you're getting closer to 2-1, 9-5, because I think a lot of people, A, are going to see the same things we see, and B, be really interested in the huge jump up to the high 90s after being consistent in the 80s.
I don't disagree with you by any means. And like I said, let's just hope we can get the trip we envision for Private Creed. again, Charlie, I'm gonna let you touch on first here. Evan Singh, Al Stahl, Corey Lannery. This is another horse that's just has done really well at fairgrounds. Running a 96 last time in the sprint and last meet. In the Cole Power, winning by 3/4 of a length, 2 for 2 at fairgrounds, and the fact that this was going to come back second off a pretty decent break is what's got me a little bit interested.
Yeah, and I mean, what you can see with Evan Singh is, look, this horse absolutely loves to close, which for me, I love. As you touched on, you and I aren't the biggest fans of these sprint races. For me, it's even more so because, again, as someone who prefers off-the-pace closers, sprints are not exactly what you want. However, what you have to give credit to Evan Singh for is normally I would see red flags with how far this horse likes to sit back. But because Evan Singh repeatedly likes to run in these 5.5 races, seemingly the jockeys have all, regardless of who's been aboard, have been able to navigate and figure out whether it's a hot or even a colder pace. You see last time out of Keeneland, obviously got the hot pace and just missed. But then, as you touched on, you look 3 back to that race at the fairgrounds, it was a cold pace and the horse still was able to close in. So for me, I just like the success at fairgrounds that you touched on. And I also like the fact that even though this horse appears to be more of a closing type, has shown the ability to figure out how to close in a race this short and still be able to always be right there, whether it is a win or just miss. I think you can get solid value as well. I mean, to me, I'm guessing you're probably going to get 4 to 5 to 1 on this horse. And I'm guessing you kind of saw the same things as for why you liked Evan Singh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like these really, really deep closers, but this consistent, no matter really, like you said, the pace kind of structure, this horse is always running late and if this is a perfect horse for me, if you want underneath horses in your exactas, trifectas, anything like that, I think Evan Singh is going to be that type of horse for sure. So Sua Summer, I'll touch on real quick, is another horse that's going to sit kind of mid-flight. Bill Mott's shipping this horse down to fairgrounds. Not really the first ship like this for Sua Summer. Shipped down to Gulfstream last winter. Ran decently well off of that ship and has just been getting better this entire time. Took a step back at Aqueduct, but was just pretty wide. Or no, cut the corner. So kind of in the mid pack, but just never really came running. The horse got a little bit of a break. Now is coming back in about 2.5 months time. I just liked a little bit of a break now coming back into a little bit of an easier spot out of New York, coming down to fairgrounds. See how this horse does against this type. Gets James Graham aboard, who's been very good at fairgrounds. So Sua Summers, who I was looking to kind of round out that exacta. But Patrick, you're the only one that has this horse finish up. But I mean, there's not too much to say about Just Might. Maybe, the fact that he's tailed off a little bit, but $1 million earner has earned over a fifth of that at fairgrounds alone.
Yeah, I might be relegated by the boss for picking a 7-year-old. No. Yeah, Just Might, I look at the horse's fairgrounds record, and, this horse actually won this race 2 years back in December of 21. And has 103 buyer speed figure, so I'm hoping this horse tails back to one of its older races. And I think the horse, I'm not going to say the horse can't do it, but has slowly started to progress in a bad direction. But I'm hoping gets that fairgrounds, back to the fairgrounds type and maybe can run big.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just the fact that it can just might run back to these types of races. Ran really good earlier in the year, has never really gotten to that point where he's been able to win again. His last win is still actually not even on the grass. It's on the dirt back in an off-the-turf race at Churchill in the Mighty Bow. But again, the classiest horse of this field by far, just banking on the fact that Just Might can run back to his previous numbers. But Michelle Lovell has done a great job with Just Might. Of course, the only horse to earn near $1 million in this race. Jaime Torres picks up the mount for the first time. Again, just hopefully another horse that could benefit for being up. There's not too many horses that are completely speedball dead sends in this type of race, which is a little bit out of the norm for 5.5 furlong races. So Just Might could flash a little bit of give you a little bit of flashbacks per se. To get, and he will be a nice price in this field. So I'm going 6, 9, 10. Patrick's going 6, 10, 4. Charlie's going 6, 10, 9. Guys, switching over the picks right now, race number 9. And I'm the one that's a little bit out of the norm here, but I'm not going first. So Patrick's going to do the due diligence here, but you guys are both going with the number 6. And as I switch over the Equibase right now, to the Untappable Stakes. You both are going with number 6, West Omaha, the morning line favorite for Joel Rosario and Brad Cox. Second choice is shared between the number 1 Alpine Princess, the other Brad Cox in this race, and Legadema for Martin Garcia and Philip Bauer. Another shout out to Colin with the Philip Bauer show, as he hopes it is today. But you guys are both going with the number 6, West Omaha. Patrick, like I said, I'll go to you first here. I mean, definitely probably the deserving favorite in a spot like this. In a short field, coming off a really nice maiden win.
Yeah, and sometimes, as you know, Kyle, I don't really like to, bet on horses that jump at a tremendous amount from their buyer speed figures from their first to second start. But in this spot, I wasn't sure how good of a race that was last out to, verify the 81 buyer. But a couple horses came out of that race and won. I thought the Gallop Out showed that she wants more. And Cox's numbers, going from a sprint to a route are not too shabby. And I think this horse is going to take another step forward with Joel aboard. And gets an outside draw, but I think this horse could be tactical. And, obviously being a mile, the 6 should sit a nice trip in a pretty, small field, but a fun field, I think.
I don't disagree with you by any means. I completely agree. And the fact that, like you said, Brad Cox taking these sprinters to routers is very good. Let's just do it right now. So if I go here to DF Formulator, again, not sponsored, but I use only DF Formula. I think it's the best way to look at the races. I'm going right now. You'll see 27% out of 433 runners. It's 61% in the money, which last time I checked, it's not very bad by any means. So West Omaha, but that's the thing that I didn't like, and that's why I'm going with the number 1 Alpine Princess, which is kind of the other Cox horse. Is even though these numbers look really inconsistent, the Alcibiades was a massive step up for a horse like this, and to go against Candied, Vivi's Dream, and Alice Beach, just not really what this horse was not really meant for. I shouldn't say that, but I think just a little bit above her head. Comes back down to a non-winners of 2 lifetime, granted an off the turf race, but runs really well at a mile and a 16th and wins by 2. Now coming back to that mile and 70-yard distance, but 2 turns, I think is going to be the experience that Alpine Princess could really need to be able to beat horses that are, maybe a little bit more fresh and a little bit more, have a little bit more upside than a horse like number 1 Alpine Princess. But I think she's back in her realm. She's where she belongs, not necessarily with, the big girls in the race like the Alcibiades, but back into, a listed stake or an allowance company field. I just like Alpine Princess. And like I said, the rail has been very, very good at fairgrounds for this entire meet. So I love that she's drawn the inside. I might have liked him even more if it was a bigger field, because I don't know if the rail is going to mean the draw is going to mean too much in a 6-horse field. But I'm just looking Alpine Princess to get the exact same trip that she got last time at Churchill. Going while the other 2 are going to be favored going 2 turns for the first time. We talk about that all the time. They're running 2 turns for their first time, and you can say in stakes company this is more like an allowance field, but 2 horses that are going to be first and second choice going 2 turns. So I'm looking to the number 1 Alpine Princess. Charlie, you have number 6 West Omaha as well in first, but the number 5 Legadema in second. Anything you want to touch on with West Omaha, but then go into Legadema?
Yeah, so no, I think you kind of covered everything I was going to say about the 1, and I think Patrick really touched a lot on the 6. I mean, with West Omaha, again, it was just, I loved what I saw in the replay. I know it was a colder pace, but I think, honestly, West Omaha kind of just got the lead because no one really was able to go, and that's why you were able to see this horse just absolutely run away and win by as much as what West Omaha wanted to, and kind of like you touched on, I think that's why as you said, that the horse will probably want more distance. I think it will. Legadema was the one that I really wanted to put on top of my heart because I don't know if you guys remember, but we covered that card on Bettin and Boozin, and that was the one with trying to think of the name of the horse. It was some horse that's always a money burner that had a lot of experience, and somebody on our show put the horse on top, but the horse lost. I can't think of the name of it right now. We could look at it later. Anyway, I had said that I didn't like any of the horses with experience, so I gave out Legadema on debut. And the horse ran out incredible. I mean, I don't think I had the horse on top, but I know I had the horse in my top 3. Was very impressed. Watched the replay again and was still very impressed. I mean, this horse shot out of a cannon. Originally sat with the other rest of the horses and just led them. And then after that was just like, what, I'm good. I'm just going to run away from this field easy. So I would not be surprised at all if this 5 horse gets the job done. But yeah, I think for me, it's between the 5 and the 6. Very interesting races you touched on because they haven't had this experience yet going this far, whereas the 1 has gone a little bit farther. I think for me, it's a 3-horse race. Again, I think West Omaha ultimately is the horse to beat, but I'm going to be rooting for the 5.
Hey, look, you get a better price there, most likely. But look, Philip Bauer, 2 Brad Coxes, those are going to be your 3 post-time favorites. But the number 4 Fibber, Patrick, anything you want to touch on? This is a horse that's not too far off on the numbers wise, just hasn't really been able to put it together the last 2 in the listed stakes. Now comes back to this same condition with Brett Calhoun, but coming back to or coming down to fairgrounds where Brett Calhoun likes to run and Mitch Merle is stationed all the winters. So what'd you like most about Fibber?
Yeah, I mean, Fibber ran into You Almost Had Me, who we talked about in a couple of races beforehand, and just didn't seem to be best. But obviously, Brett Calhoun has something for this horse because breaks its maiden and then runs right into, open company and then into stakes. So, I think this horse can run well. I just the problem is I really don't know where this horse is going to sit in the race. If this horse is going to sit back and make a move because there's more speed in the race than this horse would like to get to the lead. So it's going to be interesting tactics wise, but I think this horse could run well on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much of early pace, although she has dealt with a lot of really quick paces in her time, obviously denoted by the red figures. But the 2 horses are outside who are going to be the morning favorites that are going to go out for the lead. Maybe she just sits too far back, but I agree with you that the tactics will be a little bit interesting here with Brett Calhoun's runner Fibber. And, where is she going to sit? Is she going to sit a little bit closer this time? Maybe if there's not too much of a hot pace and that type of stuff, and maybe she'll run better being a little bit closer, but that's obviously a tale to be told. Also a horse going 2 turns for the first time. I'm going 1-5-6. Patrick's going 6-5-4. Charlie's going 6-5-1. Guys, going to switch over to the 10th race, I assume. Yeah, the Buddy Gilberto Memorial Stakes. This is a mile and 16th on the turf with the return of a Arlington legend, ladies and gentlemen. Number 12, 2 Emmys, is your morning line favorite coming off the bench from last Fairgrounds meet now into this Fairgrounds meet. James Graham, Hugh Robertson, of course, trains the 3-1 morning line favorite. And the second choice is all shared between 3 horses. It's the number 9, Rising Empire, the number 10, Beatbox, and the number 11, the Ontario-bred Harlan Estate for Declan Cannon. As I switch over the picks right now, let's see. As I switch over the picks, there we go. We are all over the place. And, that's to be expected. This race is, I would probably say, is the toughest out of the entire
for sure
card, which obviously is reflected in our picks. But Charlie, the Arlington Chalk Eater, time to go and talk about the legend that took down domestic spending in probably the slowest half mile in any grade 1 ever recorded. What do you like most about 2 Emmys?
I can't stand this horse. It broke my heart. I think I actually met Howard that day. First time I saw him at Arlington, and actually he was the one who had kind of shown me and convinced me and taught me how to do, your pick 5s, your pick 4s, your pick 6s, etc. And I had a bunch of different. I think I had a pick 4, a pick 5, and a pick 3 all going on, with the last being a single of domestic spending. And I watched that race, and exactly what you were saying happened. All I was thinking is, if there's just an ounce of pace in this race, domestic spending wins effortlessly. And it was the most agonizing, slow, painful death of all my bets at once I've ever watched. No one moved. Everybody was crawling. It literally didn't look like the race was going to happen. And 2 Emmys still only was able to just edge out domestic spending, who was much the best, but got the worst pace scenario ever. But look, putting that personal agenda I have against this horse aside, looked like the horse was going to start to regress after having that 101 and 102. But then it started to find that groove again, got down to an 80 where you're starting to wonder what's going on. But then, switches trainers, gets that 99, 98, 100, James Graham has really gotten this horse going, was able to win going away. I understand, again, it was a lighter pace again, which seems to be when Two Emmys does its best work, is just getting to the front, slowing everyone down in a painful slow death, and then winning, running away. But look, you got to respect the form. I don't really like to go speed horses in this race, but the horse is battle tested, and a race that's this wide open, like you touched on, where anyone could win. Ultimately, I just went for the horse that is the most battle tested and, has shown the most to me in terms of who I could trust to at least be somewhere on. So that's how I landed on Two Emmys on top.
Yeah. And what I will say is, to your point about the trainer switch, it's not much of a trainer switch. McLean Robinson's Hugh Robertson's son. So, just the fact that Hugh Robertson doesn't like to ship certain places or have his name, so he lets his son take. So you see the horse ran at AP. McLean takes over, goes to Kentucky. So it's just his son. But to the point, he just doesn't run well in Kentucky. But then came back to Hawthorne, ran well, came back to Fairgrounds, has run really well. He's 9 for 11 at Fairgrounds in the money, 4 for 11 on the win end. And there's not too many horses that want to go to the lead in a spot like this either. So Two Emmys, if he's ready off the bench at 7 years old, Grandpa could do it again. I mean, you see, he backs down, and James Graham knows this horse so well, and he knows his limitations pace-wise, so he tries to back down as much as he can. But Two Emmys doesn't even need the lead. It's the fact of the matter is these last two races at Fairgrounds and Hawthorne, he didn't even need the lead. He's shown the ability to rate a little bit, as well as as completely different from his earlier races where he was kind of just a dead cent. So Two Emmys he can easily win. Don't get me wrong. Just because I don't have him in my top 3 doesn't mean he can't win. Of course he can. If he's ready off the bench, I just don't like this horse that, he's going to have a wide post, which is not that good on going in Fairgrounds where the rail has been very good. And just coming off that long layoff, he's done it before, but I'd be willing to take a shot against at what's probably going to be a pretty low price. Patrick, you're going with the number 2 here, which is a horse that Charlie has in third. I don't have anywhere. There's just so many different. There's so many different ways you can go. Fair Dinkum, Joe Sharp, Bryant, BJ Hernandez. A little bit slow numbers wise, but looks to be a nice improving 5-year-old.
Yeah, I just look at the the 3 turf races that the 2 has put in, and I could honestly draw a line between 2 of the 3. I mean, if you look last out in that replay at Churchill, the horse got absolutely destroyed out of the gate and stood no chance. And then Kentucky Downs, the horse just didn't take to it. And then on debut on the turf, horse ran very well and beat at Saratoga. It was on a yielding turf. Horse hasn't gotten actually a firm turf, which is interesting. And I just think a couple excuses in a field that looks to be wide open to me, and in favorites that I'm not a fan of. I think this horse can outrun its odds and might even has a decent shot at winning this race. And I think Fair Dinkum is going to be all but 12-1.
I don't disagree with you. Like you said, always my thing, guys. Is I don't talk you off a double-digit horse and a horse that looks to be progressing. Like you said, it's never even gotten a firm turf course, but Joe Sharp has done very well shipping down to Fairgrounds already this meet. Now has this horse coming in that looks to be kind of an outside, what seems to be an outside shot, but the race looks to set up for a horse that doesn't want to be too far back. So Fair Dinkum could be that horse, in 12-1 is no, that's at Fairgrounds. That's nothing to like kind of share your eye away. But the number 9, Rising Empires, who you both have in second. Patrick, I'll just let you continue on. Rising Empire, Brendan Walsh. This is the one horse that I really, really wanted to add in here, add in somewhere, and I just couldn't. I couldn't find the place. But what'd you like most about Rising Empire?
Yeah, this horse's last race, actually here at Fairgrounds, kind of walked the dog a little bit. It was a slow race, but I just think for the competition this horse faced in the past, should put Rising Empire right in this field. Is very tactical. Has one on the lead. If this could be the type of horse where goes to the lead and tries to cut those fractions into something pretty slow. And Brendan Walsh is as good as they get on the turf too.
I mean, like we see how good he was in the Kentucky circuit this entire year. He's been red hot, but this is just one of those horses again that can be towards the front in a race that not too many horses want to go towards the front. Rising Empire is that one horse that I really didn't want to leave off, but again, just couldn't really find the place to put him in just because of that pace scenario. But Brendan Walsh, Jareth Loveberry, who's been very good down at Fairgrounds this year as well, one to look out for. I went with the number 10. Actually, no, not the number 9. Excuse me. That's a different horse. I obviously have the number 9 in second. I get too many dang races for this week, but Beatbox is who I have on top. And for Cherie DeVoe, Joel Rosario takes up the mount. Horse that's been running very well. A horse that ran very well at Keeneland. Just losing by a half length, the highest distinction granted at 25-1, but that backs up that 25-1 effort coming down to Fairgrounds in an 80,000 optional N3X and only loses by 2 in a very cold pace. I don't think this horse necessarily wants to be on the lead, kind of just inherited up there with Rising Empire. And unfortunately, I can't show the replay, but it was them two down the wire the whole way. Kentucky Ghost, who was a few lengths behind Rising Empire, is another very good Kentucky turf horse, obviously hence the name. But I just think Beatbox could take a step forward in a race that, does not necessarily going to have a cold pace, but it might need someone coming from kind of a stalking position. And the outside winning post positions, guys, there's been 18 races at the Fairgrounds meet of the winter, and 10 of those winners have come from post 7 or outside. So over almost 60% of winners routing on the turf have been outside the 7 hole. And 8 of those have been closing efforts. So Beatbox fits that narrative, and I really like Cherie DeVoe, who's been, again, very good with her shippers coming down to Fairgrounds after a really hot summer that she had. So gets Joel Rosario up, who ran him at Keeneland in the allowance 140,000. Everything kind of points to go with Beatbox, and it's 6-1, which I'm hoping I get. Minimum I would probably take is 5-1 on Beatbox, just because this race is so wide open. But if Joel can sit this horse in a really nice spot, Beatbox is going to be my pick on this card, or on this race, excuse me. But the last horse I'm going to touch on before we move on, guys, is the number 4, real quick, Johnny's Fireball. This is a horse that I feel like is getting a little bit disrespected. This horse kind of shifted back between dirt and turf. Norm Cassie, obviously, who's normally on the Kentucky circuit and the New York circuit, ships this one down to Fairgrounds. This is not a move you see too often from Norm Cassie, but this horse was running really well on the turf. Granted, under Luis Saez, gets Raylu, which is, one of the best jockeys down there, and obviously he's very good in his own right. I'm not one for jockey gymnastics, but another horse that's going to sit kind of, first call to these leaders, that if they don't end up running out the full mile and 16th, Johnny's Fireball could be one at an upset to pick up the pieces, at least underneath. So Johnny's Fireball will be someone that I'm trying to key on underneath. And Howard, this is the horse that I was trying to talk about, was, the horse that I didn't want to leave off. So, real quick, Howard says, don't sleep on the 7 in this race. New trainer with Mike Maker back, and back numbers to boot. The back numbers are pretty easy to spot here, guys. 98, 95, 96, 96, including in the grade 2 Fort Lauderdale, only losing to City Man and Decorated Invader, two very nice turf horses in their own right, mostly on the New York circuit. But Michael Huey, Corey Lannery, Mike Maker, a horse that's going to be coming from the back, but not too far back, which is another one I like. Again, this is the one horse that I wanted to add in, but didn't necessarily have the room to. But Street Ready is definitely not out of it by any means. But Charlie, you want to touch on one thing before we move on?
Yeah, you kind of started to cover on it. That's exactly what I was going to say. Most races I just write my top 3. This one, I only sent you my top 3, but on my sheet, I have a 4th, and it was Street Ready. I'm actually happy that the boss man called it out, because I saw the same thing. Look, this horse has shown ultra consistency with all those high 90s, and then, started to show a weird tail off And the fact that Michael Maker, one of the most respected and successful trainers in the U.S., decides to take this horse on, for me, doesn't shout, okay, this horse is on the decline. I see that he sees potential in this horse and understands that he believes he can get street ready, maybe not 100% back to those 96s, but at least somewhere closer to that form. And as you touched on, is another horse where can be tactical, can kind of sit up there, and it's kind of dealt with plenty of hot paces. I think Street Ready could be another one that's just pressuring those early leaders and could certainly be the one to get the first jump and make some noise at 10-1. And I don't know if you'll get that or not, because other people might get excited about the Michael Maker thing too. But I think if you're getting anywhere at least 8-1, Street Ready is certainly a horse to consider at the very least if you're doing a pick 5, pick 6 ticket and you're trying to get a price. And then as you were touching on with the 9, I think we could also, on the more boring side of things, get set up for the most boring race of all time. Just have the 9 and the 12 try to set the slowest fractions of all time together and then run off together. But yeah,
whoever
I'm hoping
can go the
like
slower, whoever can go slower to the quarter, whether that's 25 or 26 seconds.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah, the 9 and 12 are going to be trying to walk them and say, hey, we're some old senior citizen horses. Let us take our time and ease into it. So I'm hoping from the entertainment side of things, some horses like the 7 will pressure them. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, all good points by any means. And Howard, to your point, no, but I appreciate you joining in, man, greatly. And then Siggy Mendoza, Siggy, thanks so much for doing the show, man. Greatly appreciate it. Band of Gold is a horse in the 6-horse field, untappable. There's just a few things I was writing in the chat, but I might as well answer before we move on. There's a few questions I have about that race, and I'll move back here just for 1 second, guys. Band of Gold, this maiden win here. Off the turf, going slow, just not really a horse that I think would kind of take to the turf. It almost seems like this horse is really grindy, kind of a dirt type of closer. If I go to Pray for Gold here, the siblings PPs never really have run on turf. There's been one horse that's ran on turf, and that was the one other horse by Play for Gold, which is Coexist. First race, granted, ran an 11 buyer. I just didn't seem to me like just like action wise that this horse is going to want turf, but obviously the full point. Oh no, excuse me, because it's the last race. Sorry, I got my mind on this race, but there's just a few questions I have on that last race, and she might stick even too far back for me in this race, where you're gonna have the 5 and the 6 kind of battle it out, when 2 very good quality maiden races under their belt as well. I'm not sure that they're going to completely run each other out of steam. And if there's someone that I want to take looking from the back, it would be Alpine Princess. But Band of Gold could certainly pick up the pieces if it's complete meltdown. But there's just a few questions that I have with Band of Gold. But again, Siggy, thanks so much for joining the show, man. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully that answered your question. But guys, going to move on to the last 2 races here. The penultimate leg is the Tenacious, for going 1 mile and 16 for 3-year-olds and up, with some very familiar faces in this spot as I switch over the PPs and the picks right now. 2 of us are going with the number 5, number 4, excuse me, Stage Raider Patrick. That's the man right there. I didn't think anyone was going to come with me, but Patrick's coming along for the ride. But Charlie's going with the number 6, 5-star General, for Grant Forster and Marcelino Petroza Jr. Morning line favorite. I mean, maybe he'll be the favorite come post time. He really has been bad these last 2. Pioneer Medina, Giroux, Cox, 7-2. Maybe Connections alone. Dash Attack, your second choice for Kenny McPeak and David Cohen at 4-1. And Happy American shares that as well at 4-1. Guys, going to switch over here to the PPs. Charlie, you're going first, my friend. You're the odd man out picks wise. What'd you like most about the number 6, 5-star General?
So I hate to disappoint you. I'm not as creative as you thought I was, but those are my picks for the 12th race. For this race, race 11, I went 8-1-3. I mean, I could look at 5. I mean, I guess for anybody who does like 5-star General, certainly the last race was impressive. For me personally, I don't love a pure speed horse. That's why I was a little more hesitant.
That one's my fault. I was going to give him crap, but it is my fault. So I apologize, people. So, we're fine. We'll go over.
I'm still different, though. It's okay. I have a different horse.
You're fine. Yeah, you are still going a little bit off the rail here. I have Brigadier General in second, and I could talk about why I like him the most. What would you like most about Brigadier General?
Yeah, for me, what I just liked is the fact that obviously I'm normally hesitant against speed horses, as I was touching on with the 6. But what I see differently with the 8, now granted, I have to trust Joel Rosario to actually get on with it, but I'm going to. I've picked a few horses that he's on now. For me, what I just like is whether it's a hot or a cold pace, for a speed horse. This horse has been able to stay right up on front and be productive. And, I like the progression that we're seeing, obviously, earlier on in the career. You see those mid 80s and you're like, okay, if that's where this horse peaks, that's fine. And then all of a sudden you start to see the dip into the high 70s and then the 50s. And you're starting to wonder, okay, like, is this horse over the hill? Like, it'd be scary to be just 4 years old and already falling apart. But obviously not every horse is going to have a long, successful career. But then seemingly flip the switch in August at Indy, gets that 84. Then, as we've touched on as an angle we always like here, is when a horse runs a best figure back-to-back. And I know the horse ran an 87 way back, but if we're looking from recently, that is a career best back-to-back for the recent racing. And then freaks out with a 98 with Tyler G and is able to dictate a reasonable pace, puts up a 98. And it shows that this horse seemingly has found its groove and is now back on the up and up. And for me, that's what I like. I also think, I don't mind the gate at all. At the outside, I think the horse can navigate over and kind of dictate the pace. The distance doesn't worry me at all. And again, as much as I like to mess with him, I really do know deep down Joel Rosario is still one of the best in the business. And I do think he can work out a really nice trip for this horse.
Look, and the thing I'll point out, guys, is there's not a whole lot. There's some speed in this race, but it's realistically coming from not Dash Attack, but Dash Attack doesn't necessarily want to be on the lead. Confidence Game is fast, but again, his best races have been coming from off the pace, and they definitely haven't been recently. I'll tell you that much. I'm Mbag Nick, I'm assuming is how you say that. Definitely more of a stock closing type. Stage Raider is more of a stock type. Happy American's a deep closer. 5-Star General will be your speed. Pioneer Medina's not slow, although again, best races have not come on the lead, but Brigadier General is very fast. The one question mark I had was this horse ran it the biggest number by 11 points, and it was in an off the turf race on the slop. So you can questions about the field, questions about the surface, but if Brigadier General runs anywhere near that with a race on the lead, I think Brigadier General could be that controlling speed towards the outside. That could be a really good setup for Joel Rosario. But Patrick, my friend, you're going to tell us why we're right. I mean, Stage Raider came out of the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, run the Clark, or I mean, you could say barely run in the Clark.
Well, exactly, yeah.
But against, Trademark First Mission, this just seems like a pretty big step down from those types of races. And if he can run anywhere near the ACAC, I think Stage Raider could be very tough.
Yeah, and you hit on those 2 points, which I like. And I also, I obviously it'd be hard to find, but like a stat with a horse coming out of a Breeders' Cup race and how they run, because something tells me that the odds are not very good. The Breeders' Cup takes a lot out of horses, and I think that's what kind of happened with Stage Raider. Obviously going against Cody's Wish in the Dirt Mile. I just think Stage Raider is going to get a great setup in this spot, and is going to sit a great trip. And if we could get 5-1 on this horse, oh baby, I'm going to be running to the bank for some more money to cash in here.
I love it, man. I love it because the fact of the matter is in this race, Stage Raider likes to go a little bit shorter. This is a mile and a 16th, the 2-turn mile and a 16th. You see this mile at Churchill, the mile at Ellis is 2 turns. So that 96 stands out to me in a race where, sitting just off the pace, beating horses like Big Blue Line, just losing to Zozos, granted, who came back to run nowhere in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, about just as well as Stage Raider did. But just seems like the drop off of a very tough campaign that Stage Raider needs. And I think Cherie DeVoe is recognizing that, puts BJ back up on this horse that has been on for the entire campaign for Cherie DeVoe. I just think Stage Raider could really set a really nice setup, as you said, Patrick, and coming back can hopefully get back to those 96s off of a little bit of class relief. But I'll let you finish out here, Patrick. You have the number 1 Dash Attack, who I actually could have swore that I had in third, but I guess not. I guess I went against myself. But Dash Attack looks to sit kind of that same spot off of, like I said, Fairgrounds that's been really good to the inside horses.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting, McPeak sending this horse in this spot is kind of interesting. Has faced, tougher competition as well. Faced O'Connor twice in the last 3 races.
Oh, you mean the HHH Racing podcast legend O'Connor?
Yes. I just think this horse, if this horse reverts back to those, mid 90s and that 100 buyer in that race at Churchill, this horse can run very big.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see what the odds are on these horses, because I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit different than what the morning lines say.
I don't disagree with you. It could be a little bit different. Dash Attack might. I don't know if he'll get bet pretty low just based on last race, and McPeak's not the best shipping wise, but I mean setup wise, Dash Attack definitely fits, and it can run if he can run back to that 101, even mid 90s. Again, this is one horse that can get a little bit a lot better coming back off of a pretty tough campaign, but. I'll go over and there's not really too much to say about Happy American, guys. I mean, just deep closer, always runs his race, except the last time in the Fayette. But this horse is actually also entered in the last race and the turf. I don't see why Happy American would get put on the turf, especially Run Happy's really don't run at all on the turf. So it would be interesting to see where this goes. Obviously, keep an eye out on the scratches for that day, or tune into my Twitter at AP Roscoe K for those scratches. But Happy American's just always coming late. Any type of pace run into, Happy American will be there at the end. Maybe not to win, but could be one to round out your exactas and trifectas, hopefully at a little bit better price. I think you might get a 4-1. Charlie, let's finish up real quick. And Bagnick is your third choice. Amador Sanchez coming from Delta Downs, but just an improving horse that's come over from Chile and really has been or Chile, excuse me, and just once Amador kind of figured out this horse, I think where he likes to sit in the middle, he started to really improve.
Yeah, for me, I just wanted to fade some of the other horses receiving money. I think Happy American, as you touched on, runs his race, but it's just always nowhere in the competition. Just has too much ground to make up at 4-1. Don't like it. Pioneer Medina, I know a horse none of us really had anywhere to up. I think with Cox and Giroux is going to get bet on. I'm hoping those kinds of horses do, and I'm kind of hoping for your guys' sake in mind that the 4, 8, and 1 don't take too much money, so we can all get the horses we like at more value. But in case that doesn't happen again, I just wanted to find a long shot to throw in there. And as you mentioned, I like the improvement. Obviously you don't really know much about the races that the horse ran in Chile, but obviously with that 78 and 6 or 76 and 68, you're kind of nervous because that's nothing great. But then, as you mentioned, seemingly figured stuff out. Runs an 85 and 88, and has shown that off the pace ability. And as you touched on, I think now they kind of understand how to run this horse. So I'm kind of hoping that the improvement continues. And, at 12-1, if this horse, I think you'll get more than I think you'll get closer to 15, 16-1. If you can get that and this horse finishes somewhere underneath, could bring in some solid value.
I don't disagree with you by any means. This is the horse that I would have, to look that kind of value play to look underneath. Just connections wise, this horse probably will not get bet. I think 10-1 is probably what you're looking at here. And for a horse that's finally figured out and on the improve, that's not going to be bet. Could be one to round out again your exactas and trifectas. But I'm going 4-8-5. Patrick's going 4-1-7, and Charlie's going 8-1-3. Guys, to the last race here, the race that has probably the feature which has the most implications, of course, on the Kentucky Derby in this. Obviously, this is the only race that has Kentucky Derby implications for the entire day. But I would argue the feature, the Gun Runner Stakes for 100,000 going a mile in the 16th for 2-year-olds, draws a field of 8 guys. And there's some very big names headlined by one very big name, of course, and that being the number 6, the morning line favorite, Nash for Florent Giroux and Brad Cox at 7-5. I don't even think you might not even get that, realistically speaking. Switch over the picks. 2 of us are going with Nash, but Patrick, my friend, going to number 3, Risk It, a horse that we really haven't seen too much of.
You guys
since
don't
that
have a
main
wow.
win.
All right.
But I don't. I did, and I took him out at the last second. But I'll talk about that once we get there. But what did you like most about the number 3, Risk It?
My thing with Risk It is the horse is going to have to improve. Obviously, Ken with the connections and and stuff like that. But I just think that the setup is going to be the key here. Nash and Track Phantom, the 8, are both gonna go, and the 8's especially gonna go, especially from the outside, who is for Steve Asmussen. And I think that's what's gonna set up a problem for Nash. And my thinking with this is just if Risk It can find that settling spot in second or third and not deal with the pace battle that should go on, that I hope goes on, because if it doesn't, then I think we know who's gonna win this race. I think Risk It is going to be ready to run on Saturday, and should like I said, sit this nice trip. The last race in the Kentucky Jockey Club. The horse in the backstretch was just steadying like
Yeah.
multiple times. It was really weird. And then you look back at Churchill. It was not a good race. The horse did not run very well for what the horse should. But the maiden debut at Saratoga those were ones where you leave there at the end of the summer and you're like, that was a 2-year-old you have to
Yep.
watch, and that's what I'm hoping is going to deliver on Saturday. But Nash is going to be a tough competitor.
Yeah, and tough customer. But Risk It was that horse for a lot of people that
Yeah.
one of the 2-year-olds to watch coming out of that, and just really hasn't shown, like you said, some excuses on the last in the Kentucky Jockey Club. But I mean, the Iroquois was just, everyone expected him to win by pretty decent lengths and just never really picked up. Obviously, like you said, the last time could be your excuse to see some improvement, but just 79, 76, 78 does not get me excited at all for Risk It. And I had him in third, took him out at the last time for Snead. The one thing I will say that Risk It might have going for him is, like I've said it the entire day, but the inside has been super, super, super good. These dirt routes. There's been 34 races going 2 turns at fairgrounds this entire meet. You want to guess how many have won from the inside 3 draws? 22.
Wow.
That's 22 for 34. That's 65% is what it is. So, I mean, that's when you see stuff like that coming to materialize, you just do not want to be wide on that first turn. Is basically what it comes down to. So if Nash is going to want to get clear and get to the inside, but Charlie, coming to you now, Nat, I mean, I think he will. There's some other horses that are fast out of the gate, i.e. Next Level, and Risk It's also fast, but I don't think they're near as fast as Nash is out of the gate. We saw it that last time out at Churchill. People always, it's like, questioning the field and all that. People are still obviously questioning Nash's legitimacy, but 2 times out, winning by 10 1/4, getting a 97 buyer in your second start. Usually you see that out of someone like Bob Baffert on the West Coast, but the fact that Brad Cox has this horse running 97s in the 2-year-old winter, it definitely raises some eyebrows, and definitely the horse to beat in this race.
I think Nash is a very dangerous horse that a lot of people are going to be paying attention to in bigger races than this going forward. For me, I mean, look, just absolutely, as you mentioned, flew away, ran a very respectable second on debut over at Keeneland. But look, as you mentioned, Cox isn't known for ramping his horses up or trying to get them work crazy or go freak run, especially more on the the Midwest or East compared to the West Coast. And yet this horse is naturally working, a minute flat, 48 flat. So this horse is naturally already working forwardly. Again, when I watched the replay, I mean, it didn't look like, it says in the comments too, and it's true. Florent Giroux was not asking Nash to do anything. He was not working this horse.
Yeah.
It was not one of those, where you see a horse where the commentators the
wasn't
jockeys
driven
making
out,
the horse
yeah.
run up the score. Right. They were not trying to make it look prettier. If they wanted to, I think Nash could have won by at least another 4 or 5 lengths. They just let Nash do his thing, and he just absolutely dominated. And it looked graceful, effortless. He had plenty in the tank. I think this is a very dangerous horse that we're going to be paying attention to for the Derby Trail going forward. For me, was just a 1-horse race. I don't think it's a weak field. I think the 7 and 8 to the outside are interesting. And I did consider Pat, because I know you were curious that we had the horse nowhere. This was the other race that we covered where I had 4 horses written down. And I know it's kind of weird to have 4 out of 8, but still, I just thought Risk It was too good to not mention as a possible contender. Ultimately, I think Nash is in a tier of his own. And I think the 3, 7, and 8 are kind of the other 3. Track Phantom, obviously another one who broke out pretty well. Was respectable figures, and then just was able to, again, effortlessly go away. The only thing for me was it, kind of looked more like they were trying to get this one to kick away, and, was able to kind of get up to that 4 lengths and then just sat there, which there's nothing wrong with. I just think, again, the late kick we saw from Nash without being asked, I just think is unmatched. Again, I think Trek Phantom will try to be difficult, but I think even if Trek Phantom is able to get on the lead, I think if Nash sits right next to right next to him. I think Nash will still have plenty more in the tank to go right by. And then last, I will touch on Sneed, gets Jareth Loveberry and was very impressive last time. I think this is the wild card horse in this race. I understand the figures are a little lighter. I mean, still an 80 is nothing to be embarrassed about. But for me, the one reason why I'm really interested in this horse is if you want to talk about a horse that truly will want to be like a stalker closer and could kind of take advantage of a pace meltdown, for me, Sneed is the one who clearly sticks out. I think Jareth Loveberry, you see last time, was able to navigate that trip, was like 4 lengths off the lead, was not far back, but was still showed the ability to rate, went right by him, and then just flew away. And another one, that was one that was able to kind of just do it pretty effortlessly too. So again, I think obviously love whenever it's a Brendan Walsh trainee. Again, I think Nash is the obvious winner. But again, if there's a pace meltdown, I think Sneed is the one that takes advantage of it.
Yeah, look, and that's the thing, right? Is my thing was why I didn't have Risk It in there is because if there's a pace materializes in here, maybe Nash doesn't get out of the gate as fast as he's shown last time out and kind of run, it's 3 to the first turn. Sneed's the horse that I'm going to look to pick up the pieces. And just a very nice improving 3-year-old for Brendan Walsh, who really doesn't get them cranked out first time, was turf oriented, then went to the dirt and an off the turf race, basically ran himself into that next step at Fairgrounds in the optional 100 and just absolutely ran up the score in that race. So getting Jareth back on this horse, getting that setup could be the means for Sneed to come over the top in a race like this. But of course, he's going to have to do it against some pretty steep competition. I'm going 6-8-7. Patrick's going 3-6-8. Charlie's going 6-8-7 as well. Guys, best bets real quick, then we'll end the show. Again, thank you guys so much for joining in. Greatly appreciate it. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe down below. It's the best way to support our channel. And again, happy holidays to everybody. We'd really appreciate if you could do that for us. Patrick, you're going first here, my friend. Race number 8, double 6-10 with 6, and giving a late pick 3 here, 2, 9, 10, 11 with 1-4 with singling Risk It. You gotta love the balls on this man. Patrick, talk about your best bets.
Yeah, so the double, it's that's the Turf Sprint Private Creed and the 10 Evan Singh front end there. I was thinking about signaling Private Creed, but these turf sprints kind of fool me sometimes. So I'd like to have a little backup with the second choice, Evan Singh. And then I have the 6 in the 9th race, who I believe is the West Omaha for Brad Cox. Yep. And then my pick 3. So here's my thinking with my pick 3. I have in the first 2 legs, I have pretty much all the favorites covered up. And then I'm going to close with Risk It, but I'm going to play some backups, obviously, with the 6 Nash, because I just think this obviously will pay much more obvious if the 3 Risk It wins. I'd like to have that covered, but as well, I'll press up a little bit if I have to with Nash, depending on, payouts and stuff like that. But this is we covered 6 fun races, so this is going to be a really good card on Saturday. So I'm excited as a little appetizer to our football Sunday and Monday and whatever. All the holiday games we got going.
Damn right, man. Good luck on your best bets. Love the construction. Again, singling that 5-1 that could really boost up that ticket price. Good luck with your best bets, Patrick. Charlie, exacta. Wait, no, I didn't. Did I change? Is that right? I feel like that's not right.
It was was a daily double race.
Yeah, I got it now.
Race 7 and 8, and then an exacta in the 12th.
It didn't say, but Charlie, you're going race number 7. A double 3-5 with 6, and then an exacta in the 12th race 6-7 over 8. Charlie, talk about your best bets.
Yeah. So ultimately for me, as we kind of touched on earlier, I think we all kind of agreed, like Private Creed just looks so talented and is so consistent, got a nice gate, should get a good trip however the race develops. So for me, wanted to be able to play into that horse. Since I'm a little less confident about race 9 and I don't think there'll be much value, I decided to play into Private Creed. And, as we kind of touched on earlier with race 7, I know Helena's Forte looks very tough. But again, I just didn't want to leave out Twirl Around. The horse just really convinced me after that replay. I couldn't stop watching it. So I put those 2 playing into Private Creed. And then the last race, again, I think it's a 1-horse race with Nash. Wanted to play into the 7 and 8 simply because I think the 8 is the clear second best horse for me. But in case Track Phantom sort of gets tired out from trying to keep up with Nash, I think Sneed would be the one to pick up the pieces. So I wanted to have the opportunity to play either of those horses in underneath. So those are my 2 best bets.
And sorry about that. There it is on the screen for you guys. But yeah, I mean, look, you're talking if Nash goes by himself, or if the pace melts down and Snee gets up. You're targeting Track Phantom for second, whether Nash gets run out or he keeps up the entire way. So I love that construction. And of course, the double 3-5 with 6. You know me with doubles. I love it. Good luck with your best bets, Charlie. My best bets, I'm centering on the last 3 races here. And that I know the race is wide open, but no matter the reason I'm taking my best bet in that race, because no matter where you look, you're going to get the price you want. And on the number 10 Beatbox, I'm willing to go as low as 5-1, but I mean, I can see this horse even being 7-8-1. And the fact that this horse is going to have to come over from the 10 hole might even help the price a little more. This horse, the buyers don't jump out, but they're consistent from the synthetic at Turfway in the winter, coming back both off the layoff. That 94 was off of a 6-month layoff. Now third off the layoff for Cherie DeVoe, who's been very good shipping her horses this winter down to fairgrounds. I love Beatbox, and I think you'll get a really nice price. 5-1 is what I'm going to look for there. And I'm not getting too cute, guys. Going to really hammer this double in the late stages. I'm going with number 4, Stage Raider, which is our top pick, Patrick, and the number 8, Brigadier General, who I believe was Charlie's top pick in that race as well. With Nash single, I just think Nash is extremely fast and way faster than a lot of these horses. And I don't think the pace will melt down, being that the inside's been so good. Track Phantom going to try to track from the outside, no pun intended, but probably just not good enough for me. So I'm going to go 4-8 with 6 there. But guys, thanks. We've covered really nice races and some really fun races in this card at Fairgrounds, and all stakes late pick 6. Like I said, on Saturday, not to mention tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, the Flagship show will be covering tomorrow, Thursday, of course. If you're watching this on Wednesday, the day of the stream, tomorrow, Thursday, the Flagship show will be covering the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park, which includes the Tropical Park Derby and the Tropical Oaks. So please be on the lookout for that show as well. And again, if you haven't, please like the video and smash the like button, guys. We would greatly appreciate it. But for my co-hosts, Patrick Kuenzel and Charlie Freeman, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode number 53 of Bettin and Boozin on the HHH Racing Podcast. Until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe. Have a good night.